All right, welcome to Behind the Scenes. We are in the room that creates the magic that is our stone ground coconut butter, as well as our in-house stone ground chocolate. All right, we're here with Chef Alex Hamilton,
Hi.
the maestro of all these machines here and keeping them grinding, keeping them filled. And what do we got grinding today?
Well, so we got 74%, which is the base of a lot of our most of our chocolate, the chocolate chunks in the cookies, the
Right.
brownies. So it's a perpetual grind basically for that.
A delightful grind,
Yes.
eh?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It is, and it is. It's great.
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit from every one. It's like a mother.
Right?
Like a mole, because like in mole, which is cacao based
Yeah.
thing. There's always the mother mole, the mole madre, and so
Right.
it's kind of like that, like
For
a little
sure.
bit, yeah.
I mean, these grinders are going 24/7, 7 days a week, and it's one of those things, like many other establishments. And maybe I should back up and kind of make a distinction between a chocolatier and a chocolate maker.
Yes.
So we are kind of engaging in, chocolatiering, right?
Yeah.
Like we take chocolate, we turn it in all kinds of like you say, like we're using it for our brownies, we're adding it to cookies, we're creating truffles, we're doing all kinds of nice, wonderful bars, but we're also chocolate makers in that we're initiating and starting and creating chocolate from scratch. That initial process.
Yeah.
And because, as you can see behind, we got one big giant machine there. We got another machine here. We got another one right beside us here. It's very costly to kind of, do that process. Not only in terms of investment, in terms of equipment, but then, just the maintenance and the daily kind of attentiveness to making chocolate from scratch. It's a whole other enterprise. And I get it. Most businesses would rather just buy like Colette's, or like pre-made chocolate, just bulk, typically from Barry Callebaut. There is some distant relation to Bernard Callebaut. They're one of the largest chocolate makers and therefore suppliers in the world. Cargill Foods is also in the game. Like
Yes.
they're one of
Yeah.
the largest makers and suppliers. So most companies, even that have their own brand of chocolate bar, actually, buy this couverture. They buy it pre-made, and then they'll just kind of do the finishing touches. No right, no wrong. It was just we always wanted to have control, right from the very
That's hard,
beginning.
yeah.
Choose the beans, choose the type of sweetener. You can play with those percentages. And really customize it. And then, like you said, everything that we craft is then applied and used in-house for everything else.
And it's such an amazing process, and it's such a joy too, because
Yeah.
and as you mentioned, those big companies also do white label
Right.
things where it will be like, oh, we'll grind this for you, and you just give us the formulation, and it's
Right.
yours.
Yeah, here's your label,
Yeah.
and you think, oh, this is a nice like craft artisan. I remember being shocked by a company that I had always envisioned was this kind of like small craft. They're based off of it. One of the small Gulf Islands, very prominent chocolate maker, and I was like, wait a minute, like they're buying Callebaut, right? Like
Yeah, totally.
that's what their chocolate is, kind of commodity chocolate versus craft.
Yes.
So if you're ever curious, you can see the shop right through there. This is the grinder room. You can always kind of have a little peek in, see what we're grinding. Almost always coconut butter going, again, 24/7. And then the types of chocolate will rotate. So it might be a 74%, like you say. That's often a base for a lot of our other bars or the treats in the cooler. But then we do a number of other different chocolates that are their own kind of formula, ground from scratch. So
Oh, totally.
what are those ones?
Well, I mean, the get yolked is the
Right.
perfect one, right? Because a lot of emulsifiers are lecithin,
Right.
lecithin based, and so you see on the back of a lot of bars soy or
Yeah.
sunflower lecithin. But egg yolk actually has a huge amount of lecithin
Right.
as well.
It's so true.
And so it was just like, well, a milk chocolate, might as well. And
Yeah.
and it's great because we bring in all the milk because we've had so much trouble finding good organic grass-fed finished
Yeah.
pasture, raised pasture finished
Yeah.
milk, and so the only ones that we know is Vital Green Farms.
Yeah.
And so
Totally,
We're-
but they provide it fresh, and our problem was you can't add fresh to chocolate or to these grinders. So we do the freeze drying in house, and this came after experimenting, like you said, with different suppliers, not seeing that quality. And then also bringing across the border, the milk cartel, the Dairy Board of Canada, is very, very protective of Canadian milk. So if you import milk across the border, like insane, huge duties, it was just like, we can't do this. And but that was great. It inspired us to then do all that drying in-house.
Even more in-house,
And so it's freeze-dried, locally produced milk that we then freeze dry, and then we put that in the chocolate.
With some egg yolk in there too. Like we just give it a light cooking to make a custard,
right?
And then freeze dry that, and then that goes in. So it's like custard. It's like chocolate mousse.
That's for sure. I think two inspirations you had mentioned, kind of the idea of like the lecithin and its emulsifying properties. I think the other thing that paired there was like this idea. I mean, eggs are just extremely nutritious, especially the yolk. And a lot of people had gotten into this idea of like yolky coffee, right? Or yolk in your elixirs as a way to kind of elevate that morning beverage even more, like the nutrition of a yolk or two in a drink. And I think that, along with the like, oh, wait a minute, here's how it would work kind of, chemically, synergistically in a bar for mouthfeel and holding ingredients, but also like, wow, density of nutrition. And then the creaminess, like it's unbelievable.
It is.
The get yolk, it's next level.
Oh, it is so good. But also another one that we're just finishing up is like a Mexican hot chocolate, or champorado, as they say in Mexico. And so it's like we want to grind this stuff in there, so it's micro milled, and so it's really in there. And there's cinnamon, there's purple corn, there's chili flake. I put mesquite in there, and so it gets to go in there, and
cool. So that's a sneak peek of our February bar that'll be coming out soon. So this is the process. We got to get on it. We got to grind it, weeks ahead. I mean, first is the idea, then it's the recipe testing, and then it's like the production, so that we can be ready for the month and have it all ready for you guys. And so that one, in terms of kind of a creaminess, what's the base of that one?
It's going to be a coconut. Just so everybody, so there's a lot. I mean, a lot of my Mexican friends will be shuddering at the idea, because it's usually dairy milk, like dairy milk in it. But it just, I just wanted to make it a larger bandwidth for this one.
Totally, and I'll just emphasize, I mean, that's why we have 3 grinders, is like, A, we're producing so much, but B, like that big giant one can only do coconut butter. Like that's all it does, right? So we don't have to worry about cross-contamination. So if somebody's like, oh, I'm allergic to eggs, or I'm allergic to dairy, it's like, well, we have a grinder that does just that, and then we have another grinder that just does the coconut bars. And makes it kind of like easier, cleaner, simpler that way.
And that's only half the process too. That we mentioned. We got another machine that makes it so it's a snappy bar, because a lot of people don't know that chocolate needs to be tempered. Like true. After this is ground, it's not done. Like then we need to do some heat. Like to make sure that the fat, is matricized.
It's so cool. It's like the crystalline structure of the oils, the fats. Right? They got a set, and they call it the beta 5 crystals. There's these different crystals that you want. You want the beta 5s. That's what gives the most shine, the most snap, and the most kind of shelf stability naturally, without adding preservatives and that type of thing. So
I've seen many people that have thrown out chocolate because it has a fat bloom, and they think it's mold, and it's like, no, it can't mold. Chocolate cannot mold. And so this fat bloom, which looks bad, but I mean, also it kind of looks cool too. Like untempered chocolate has this like crazy hexagonal, sacred geometry type thing going on, and it's super cool.
Totally, and it gets this kind of crumbly texture. And it's super neat. So, anyways, maybe another video in future we'll share the insights into tempering and that whole process in our machinery there. But I wanted to bring you into the grinder room, share with you the magic that goes on here 24/7, and again, just take a peek next time you're in, and we'll usually have it written up on the board, what we're grinding, what is going on right now as chocolate makers. So come on in for a taste, And I'll just spin the camera around so you can kind of see inside the action of these granite stone on stone wheels. And like you mentioned about the microns of the chocolate, the texture, it's why we grind it for so long, is to get it that smooth.
Very
so
smooth,
your taste buds cannot detect any sort of graininess. That's the magic of a really good chocolate, and that's the magic of a really good nut butter, like our coconut butters. So let's go take a look at that.